Welcome to Brain Secrets in the Age of the Brain. Research is regularly uncovering interesting bits of information about brain function that I like to call brain secrets. Here's one of them. In the 1960s, it was discovered that people tend to recognize faces much more easily within their own racial group. Researchers dubbed that phenomenon other race effect, acronym ORE or OR. Initially, some assumed this represented a type of prosopagnosia, or face blindness, that impacts about 2% of the population. If not that, then it must be a social racial bias. Others opined that people are less motivated to engage with members of other races, so naturally, they have a weaker memory for their faces. The debate raged for years. The report of a 6-year study related to other race effect was recently published in the journal Scientific Reports. The study concluded that OR is not due to face blindness. It is not due to social racial bias. It occurs due to the brain's lack of cognitive visual expertise. I compare that to taking music lessons and then rarely practicing. If you want to develop musical skills, you need to practice. Turns out that regularly exposing your brain to faces in an obviously different racial group can help your brain develop cognitive visual expertise, especially if you develop friendships, as I have been very fortunate to do in several countries where I have made presentations about the brain. I just love this stuff. Now, I get to chat with Asia Hudson, assistant producer of Brain Secrets, Ask Dr. Taylor. She and videographer Grant Gilmore took to the streets to collect questions for this episode. I am so glad to see you on set with me again, Asia.
Yep, it's been a while. I'm happy to be here.
It seems like it's been a while, and I miss it when we're not regularly able to do these.
Definitely. You're not the only one. I miss it too.
That's good. You know what? This time, why don't we see if Grant is ready, and let's just start with the videos, because I'm anxious to see them.
Oh, great. We have a great surprise for you, and I'm always excited for you to be excited. So yes. Can I do the honors of asking Grant?
Why don't you ask Grant?
Grant, are you ready today?
I think I might need a minute. We have a technical difficulty going on.
Of course he's not ready the one time I asked.
You gotta be kidding.
I jinxed it. How did this?
All right, so I'll ask him this time.
Okay.
Grant, I'm ready to see the videos. Are you ready to roll them?
We just got the laptop back, so we're ready to go.
Good, let's do it.
Of course. What's up, y'all? My name is Asia Hudson, and welcome to another episode of Ask Dr. Taylor, where we take to the streets and ask random people questions about brain function. Then we take those questions and we send them back to the desk of our world-renowned brain function specialist, Dr. Arlene R. Taylor, PhD. Today we are in sunny, hot, humid Atlanta. The first question is, Dr. Taylor, what kind of effect does heat and humidity and discomfort have on the brain? That's question number one, because I'm all of those things currently, but I make it look good. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get some questions from the people on the street.
Any way you cut the mustard, humidity and heat waves do a number on the brain. They increase aggressive behaviors and violent crimes. The higher the relative humidity, the worse it gets. If the temperature outside is 96 degrees Fahrenheit or 53 degrees Celsius, and the relative humidity is 65%, the heat index, or how hot it feels to your brain, is 121 degrees Fahrenheit or 49 degrees Celsius. Indoor temperatures of only 75.2 Fahrenheit or 24 Celsius results in decreased cognitive performance. Temperatures of 90 Fahrenheit or 32 Celsius impair complex cognitive tasks. In classrooms, this can lower high school students' exam grades by 14% and result in a 10.9% lower likelihood of their even passing a subject. Humidity and high heat can cause heat stroke, which can kill brain cells, often permanently, and cause dehydration that can be lethal to the elderly and to children. As the brain heats up, the blood-brain barrier begins to break down, allowing things to pass into the brain that have no business being there. Symptoms increase in severity in those with generalized anxiety disorder, depressive disorders, and bipolar disorder. For every 1 degree increase in monthly average temperatures, mental health-related deaths increase by 2.2%. Higher relative humidity results in a higher occurrence of suicide attempts and successes. This is just the tip of the iceberg and is one reason global warming disturbs me greatly.
Hi, y'all. Can I ask you a quick question? Sure. Okay, the question is, if you could ask a brain function specialist a question about brain function, any way how the brain works, what would you ask her?
How does the brain function with a person with dyslexia?
Good question.
Ooh, great question, Dr. Taylor. How does a brain function in a person with dyslexia?
My son has dyslexia as well.
Okay, no problem. You want to say something, sir?
Mm-hmm.
What you want to say?
I don't know why I have dyslexia.
Aww.
Okay, no problem. Well, you're gonna be great when you grow up. You're gonna be awesome at whatever it is you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
Good job. How does the brain function in a person with dyslexia? Dyslexia is a specific learning disability that is neurobiological in origin. It's linked to specific genes that cause an overburden of impairments in how the brain processes reading and language and how effectively the brain adjusts to these processes. Although there's a different type of wiring in parts of the brain, it's not linked with intelligence. How the brain functions depends on the brain and individual differences in brain processing. No brain is flawless. And when you give something up, you usually get something in return. For example, in their book, The Dyslexic Advantage, 2 physician authors explain how dyslexic individuals tend to share a unique learning difference that can be advantageous. Research has pointed out that although dyslexic brains perceive the written word differently, they may excel at spatial reasoning, interconnected thinking, and display amazing creativity. That's good by my dyslexic brain. Why do I have dyslexia? The young man asks. Unfortunately, I doubt anyone could tell you that. You're in good company, however. Thomas Edison, Steven Spielberg, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Charles Schwab, Whoopi Goldberg, Caitlyn Jenner, Jennifer Aniston, Agatha Christie, favorite author of mine, Anne Bancroft and Cher are just a sampling of individuals who have been very successful, dyslexia notwithstanding. Multiple risk factors are linked with dyslexia, including a family history of dyslexia or other learning disabilities, premature birth or low birth weight, exposure during pregnancy to nicotine, drugs, alcohol, or infection that may alter fetal brain development. My brain is dyslexic. That means I must work harder at what I do and be persistent. It's doable. Although there is no cure, there are specific educational strategies available. It's never too late to ask for help, and the sooner, the better.
Dad, are we following it up?
And what causes the executive dysfunction in people with ADD and ADHD?
Ooh, you guys are smart family. And then, that is my favorite question of all time. Okay, thank y'all so much. Have a great day. Thank you.
ADHD and its subtype, ADD, are neurodevelopmental disorders that impair the brain's executive function skills. Executive dysfunction is not a diagnosis by itself. It's a symptom caused by malfunctions in several portions of the brain and the nervous system. Although most commonly linked with ADHD, executive dysfunction is also seen in other mental health conditions such as autism spectrum disorders, obsessive-compulsive disorders, depressive disorders, and schizophrenia. The symptoms occur on a spectrum of executive or high-level skills that are designed to regulate thoughts, emotions, planning, organizing, and exhibiting appropriate behaviors. What do the resulting behaviors look like? Trouble organizing things at home, school, or work. Problems in trying to regulate emotions. Difficulty completing simple tasks. Grappling with setting and following schedules, along with challenges in maintaining relationships and carrying out responsibilities. Sometimes medication can help. Often, cognitive behavioral therapy is recommended to help individuals learn skills to more successfully manage executive dysfunction.
Hey, y'all, can I ask any of y'all a quick question? All right, all right. So the question is, if you could ask a brain function specialist a question about brain function, what would you ask her?
I got nothing.
That's okay.
How do you control your thoughts?
How do you control your thoughts? That's a very interesting question. You got any crazy thoughts you're trying to control? Wild thoughts?
None that I would like to share.
Thank y'all so much. Thank you.
Good answer.
Okay, so I actually have a question inspired by their question. When I asked him if he had a question, he did this, like over his shoulder. And so I was like, what's he looking for? Ain't nothing back there. So my question is, how does paranoia function in the brain, and what causes paranoia? Like, what could be a catalyst for paranoia? That's my question, Dr. Taylor. We'll hear about it when we see you in person. All right, all right.
How do you control your thoughts? In a healthy brain, you generally have a choice. You can choose to hang on to a thought, choose a replacement thought, or choose to engage in an activity that requires staying in the moment and paying attention. You can take a few deep breaths and slowly count to 90, staying focused on the numbers. Estimates are that it takes about 90 seconds for the brain to readjust itself. Telling your brain that you don't want to think a negative or fearful thought is unhelpful. Your brain will think of it even more frequently. Rather, think of something for which you're thankful and make that a replacement thought. or engage in an entirely different activity if possible, like playing a musical instrument, singing or humming, or exercising for a few minutes. Verbalizing the thought to a friend or counselor may help the brain let the thought go. Developing a positive mindset can help. Reframe every negative thought into a positive one. Sometimes the brain can develop a disorder that prompts continual anxious rumination of negative or fearful thoughts that you cannot seem to control. If that happens, I suggest you visit your physician right away and get some help, because help is available. Paranoia. How does paranoia function in the brain, and what causes paranoia, or what could be a catalyst for paranoia? Paranoia personality disorder is a mental illness involving odd, eccentric, and profoundly cynical views of others and the world. It is characterized by a sustained pattern of distorted thinking, unjustified suspicion and mistrust of others or their actions. They read malevolent intentions into generally and genuinely harmless, innocuous comments, teasing, or behaviors. They dwell on past slights and do not confide in others or allow themselves to develop close relationships, even with those who've demonstrated their trustworthiness. They may verbally attack others when feeling threatened, hold grudges, be litigious, and can display pathological jealousy. Often hostile and socially isolated, they constantly experience anxiety that others have ulterior motives, which leads to difficulty working with and getting along with others. No one definite cause is known, although several potential catalysts or risk factors have been identified. A family history of schizophrenia, or persecutory type delusions, a history of adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, children who are teased because they act strangely due to psychological and environmental factors. They may learn to not trust and to become suspicious of others' motives. Estimates are that the disorder affects from 2.3 or 4 to 4.4% of the general population, and it's more common in males than females. Untreated, it is an unhealthy and unhappy way to live.
And that wraps it up for another episode of Ask Dr. Taylor out here in the streets. We're excited to see what kind of answers you provide to these very, very thoughtful questions. See, people in the... Sorry, I don't mean to shade anybody else who we've done Ask Dr. Taylor with, or any of the other cities, but I just knew that Atlanta would be great. I just knew it. And my people, they showed out, they showed up, and I'm very proud of this episode today. So, Dr. Taylor, I'm excited to see what kind of answers you have for the questions that we received today in the field.
Well, that was fun, Asia. Those were good questions.
Yes. Oh, they're my favorite of all time, I would say.
Well, it's because your hometown. What can I tell you?
It is because of my hometown.
You know, I was thinking when I first started watching the film, I thought I saw something that reminded me of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention buildings. And I thought, did they go to Atlanta? Because it's kind of fun when you go somewhere and then come back and I'm supposed to try to guess. Mm-hmm. I've only been to Atlanta twice.
Yeah.
The first time I went, because I'm a nurse epidemiologist, I went to an epidemiology conference when the AIDS epidemic was really rip-roaring.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a sad time for our country. Mm-hmm. And the next time I went was because I had a really lifetime favorite friend of mine who worked at CDC, Grace Amori Elder. And she asked me if I'd like to come out and if I liked it, submit an application to work there. And I thought, ooh, it'll be just great to work with her. Well, I got to Atlanta, middle of the summer.
Yeah.
You have to understand that I was born in Canada, 56 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. That's like, 48 Celsius. And Atlanta was way over 100. And it was, as I recall, like 80% humidity. Going from 56 degrees below zero, yes, it was outside, but still, up to 100 and something is 150 degrees of heat. And I don't think my brain can do this.
We powered through it. I'm going to have to tell you, because I was thinking that exact same thing. I was not born, but raised fully in Atlanta. And when I go back, I'm like, oh no. This is not for me anymore. I cannot do this anymore. And also, since like global warming and the temperature of the planet has changed so much, the heat is even more relentless than it once was. And it feels personal.
Yes.
I get so upset because it's so hot that it actually feels personal. So
Well, some people love it, and I'm so glad they do. So I always want to know, did you have a favorite question?
Yeah, I would say that my favorite question would have to be, this is kind of biased, but I really liked my paranoia question, because the guy was like checking and looking over his shoulder all crazy. And so I guess it wasn't too crazy, but.
Well, maybe he just didn't want anybody around him to hear what he was asking a brain function specialist.
Oh yeah, maybe, but I really liked that question because I have like a thing where it's probably OCD or some sort of paranoia where I cannot leave the house until I've checked the burner 3 times. I usually walk back to the door 3 times. So to have a question answered about paranoia eased my paranoia.
Well, that's probably not as much paranoia as obsessive compulsive. You do not want to have the place burned down while you're gone. And
that's paranoid, right? Wouldn't that be paranoid?
Paranoia is more when you look at other people and believe that they have it out for you. They do not have your best, at heart. Mm-hmm. And it's perfectly healthy to check. I check and sometimes double check. But eventually you can train yourself to trust that you checked. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't see you being that obsessive compulsive. Yes, you double check the cameras and then you ask Grant to double check the cameras. And that's wonderful because I'll tell you, it is not fun to do a whole show and then one of the cameras wasn't working, or one of the lavaliers wasn't picking up.
Oh, yes, a filmmaker's nightmare.
And then you never do it exactly the same way the second time. And so anyway. Mm-hmm. All right, well, I'm already looking forward to the very next time because you collected more questions.
Yes, it was a very busy day in Atlanta. And I was surprised because normally when we go out, we face a fair amount of rejection, but not in Atlanta. It was almost like every single person I asked said yes. So it was so easy. We were still out there for a long time, but it was so easy, and we have so many questions that we created a fair amount of segments for you.
So it makes you wonder, since you grew up there, I wonder if you were putting off electromagnetic energy about this felt familiar.
Oh, no. I was going to say maybe, but honestly, I was so uncomfortable that I would be surprised if you were like, wow, she has a very familiar energy. But I'm really good at turning things off and turning things on. So when I'm uncomfortable, I can just turn it off. And then I'm acting like I'm comfortable, I'm acting like I'm fine. So maybe that's why I was in my element.
That's the actress part of you.
There it is. Got to bring it out sometime.
All right. Until next time,
Right on.
Thanks again, Asia.
Thank you.
And thank you, our viewers, for watching. Our entire production team would love to have you join us for all our shows. Until next time, may you be safe, healthy, happy, and enjoy good weather.